Your desire desires you, or you wouldn't even have the desire. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In case you're new here, my name is Kim. This is Core Union. I wanted to tell a quick story. One of my clients sent me something in that he manifested that he thought would be very inspirational for many of you guys, and I agree. So, and it also made me remember something that I might share that I manifested back several years ago. But two very good examples of how things are literally working behind the scenes without you even knowing about it. As soon as you're like just feeling into whatever it is that you want to manifest and not putting up the resistance around it, that's one of the big keys that is true. If you're putting resistance up in any form, like that, I can't do that, I'm not capable of it, I'm not worthy, good enough, I'm not deserving, this shouldn't happen for me, this wouldn't happen for me. It's just any of those lies and illusions that you tell yourself. Those are the things that literally keep what you were born to do, create, or have from you. So it's a shame, right? To allow those things to basically keep you down. Okay, so the story is pretty cool. Before I get into this, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel if you love my content. And if you want me to be your coach, feel free to email me a short description to excuse me, Kim@coreunion.com. Then you go to my website, coreunion.com, book your session. You can do either a 30-minute session, a 60-minute session, or a package, which makes it more affordable. More people do prefer the packages. And then I will email you back with our first session. So my client sent in this story. He decided that he had this vision of a project. The project itself was he was going to need to acquire a workspace. So he was going to need to find an office. He would need a Mac computer, camera equipment, and editing software. And he didn't have the money for it. He didn't have the extra money. So he would just daydream about it and made the decision that he was just going to save up. Not a big deal, right? He put up no resistance. He kept daydreaming about it. So while he was daydreaming about it, he was enjoying it. What are daydreams? Daydreaming is just kind of imagining something and feeling it. What happens with a lot of people is you're daydreaming, but then you come out of it and you say, yeah, that's just a daydream. That's just wishful thinking. That would never happen. That's not realistic. I shouldn't allow myself to think that. I shouldn't expect that. Like that's a pipe dream, whatever the case is. Those are some examples of how resistance works. And resistance is like your ego trying to stop you from something, usually out of some form of protection, so you don't get disappointed or hurt. But it's really just holding you down. It thinks it's protecting you, but it's really just stopping you from having what you truly deserve, the life that you deserve to have. For example, with your person or like anything related to, finances and things. So anyway, back to the story. So he continued to just daydream about it and enjoy the daydreaming. And then he found himself one day going to a party. And while he was at the party, had a few drinks and he started getting excited about it. Up until this point, he hadn't actually talked about it with anybody. Oh, and I do want to add also another big thing about this was that he in his heart of hearts, he imagined wanting to be in the heart of everything, in the heart of action, like in a downtown area. Okay. So now back to the party. He's kind of in a huddle, in a circle, sharing now his project and his vision with a whole bunch of friends. All of a sudden, a friend that he hadn't seen in over 10 years comes into the circle and he's like, what are you guys talking about? And so my client shared with him his vision, as his idea. And the friend was super excited. And he was like, wow, I actually would love to be part of this. If I was to fund you, can I be in on it with you? And so, of course, my client said yes. So he said, then put a budget together. So my client put a budget together. And he was being very conservative when he was putting the budget together. Like he didn't put all of the money that he actually needed. He completely left the Mac computer out. He put a small amount in for the office space and a small amount in for the software and the camera equipment. So the friend of his looked at it and tore it apart, but in a good way. And he said, this isn't nearly enough for decent camera equipment. For us to do this, we need to do it right. So he tripled the budget amount for that. And then he completely left the Mac computer out of the budget completely. So the friend said, what about a Mac computer? You need that. Do you have one? And he said, yes, but it's old. And so the friend said, well, then we need to get you a brand new Mac computer. And when he got to the office space, he basically said, I have a friend that has office space that's like live work space right in the heart of downtown in the middle of all the action. This is kind of where you want to be. And as it turns out, the building is a building so cool. It's so cool that Snoop Dogg literally stayed in the penthouse of the building. Like it's that kind of place. So he said, I'm going to reach out to him and see if he has available space. So he reached out and the friend said, there's a long wait list, but if you tell me within 24 hours that you guys want the space, it's yours. So within a matter of he just daydreamed about it without putting up any resistance, which means that he was feeling the feelings of it. He was probably naturally imagining it. He was excited about it. And all in that moment, that is when God goes to work and handles everything. And that's when all of the cooperative components are literally getting orchestrated behind the scenes without you even seeing it. Movement was already happening without him even knowing it. So now, then he ends up at a party that a friend of his that he hasn't seen in 10 years also happens to be at, that is also in alignment perfectly with wanting the same thing. And boom, just like that, he gets everything that he wants and needs to make this happen. And I think that it's a perfect example of how a lot of you guys get caught up with not seeing any evidence and not trusting that movement is actually happening. You don't need evidence. The only evidence that you need is actually the actual desire. The desire itself is your evidence. That's all you need. And I wanted to share a quick story that I also think will be helpful. Just another example of how movement is always happening and things are getting orchestrated for you without you even seeing it or knowing it. And it's just when you're constantly checking for it, that's when you're then manifesting nothing back because you're constantly noticing nothing. So you're getting back nothing. It's just that perfect. So this is several years back. I had manifested an experimental business so I could prove that manifestation was real. At this point, I was in probably the third version of the store. I kept moving and growing. And I was in the third version of the store that was in a city that I didn't really care to continue doing business in. And I really wanted to be in this other city that was like my dream city to live and have the business in. This other city was one of those places that was like the place to go. Everybody loved visiting the city, and retailers, everybody wanted to have their business in the city. And it was one of those places that's known to be hard to break into the market, both as a retailer and even to live. It was supposedly really hard for both. But I really wanted to live there and I really wanted to have my store there. So I would visualize it and I would imagine it. And then, so every time I would drive there and visit there, that's what I would be imagining. I would just be imagining this is where I live. This is where my business is. This is where my life is. So one day I was just inspired to just go up to have fun like I always did. But I had just been imagining the store being there. I was walking around and I had an urge to go down a particular street. I just felt a pulling to it. When I went down the street a little bit, I noticed a storefront that had a retail store operating in it, but there was something about it that literally was pulling me towards it. So I felt this feeling. It was a very strong feeling in my soul. And I listened to it and I went across the street and I just looked at it and I closed my eyes for a second and I made the decision. This is the new home of my store. This is where my store is going to be. Now, a lot of people logically and in the 3D would say, what are you, crazy? You're never going to get your business here. You don't know anybody. You don't have the money. You don't have the resources. And another store is literally operating out of there right now. You don't know anything. But I didn't even entertain any of those thoughts. I just said, yes, it's done. This is where my store is going to be. I can feel it. and I accept it and I know that it's done. And so then I just went about my business and stuff. And I don't know if it was the same day or if it was like a week or two later, but I would always visit the place. So I was visiting again, possibly, and I was driving. And I decided to go. There was a sign for an open house for a real estate property, a home. And the home ended up being like $1 million listing. But I was just inspired to go into the home and look around and enjoy myself. So I was just having fun. Again, listening to your soul. As you're listening to your soul and just enjoying yourself and having fun, everything is unfolding exactly how it's supposed to be. So I met the real estate broker and we were just chatting. It was just for fun. She was just having an open house. And I basically, she asked me about, where I'm from and stuff. And I told her, and I told her about my store. No biggie. I didn't talk about wanting to open a location or anything there. That was it. So a little time passed, and I'm back in my actual retail store. And a woman comes in and she asks for the owner. I tell her that it's me. She introduces herself and she tells me that she owns a lot of real estate property in that city. And then she says, have you ever thought about opening a second location there? And I was like, yeah, I actually am. I do want to. And she said, well, I'm looking for a tenant. And so, she named the real estate broker, was talking to me one day and told me about you. And I looked you up and I'm very impressed with what I see. So I would like to offer you to come in and take over the location. And she apparently something was happening with that store owner that they had to leave. They had to vacate the store. And instead of her going into all these other retailers that are like bigger than me, have more money than me, and who are on a wait list, she chose me. And it happened to be the exact same location. So she also made it super easy for me. I didn't have to put down first, last security or anything. So I said yes. We made an agreement over a few days or whatever. We made an agreement. And I don't know, within a month or so, I ended up opening another location there. I got all the funding that I needed, and everything was just really easy. Were there challenges? Of course. Were there things that I had to deal with then with closing the other location? Yes, but even that took care of itself. Something happened with that landlord that really was it was kind of a really nasty and mean thing to do, but it was actually all part of the unfolding. So it didn't matter. I could have been upset about it, but it didn't matter. So everything just unfolded and everything worked out exactly how it should. The reason why I want to bring this story up too is another prime example of how, when I was inspired to go that day and take a walk, the pulling that I felt towards that particular storefront is a perfect example of how your desire desires you, or you wouldn't even have the desire. Okay. From my perspective, the reality already existed that I actually was operating out of that store. And for that matter, all the stores that ended up following that I grew from, and even this reality of me now being a teacher with all of this experience I acquired through manifesting, reverse engineering to learn so I could teach you. From my perspective, all reality is already done. And we're just going through this 3D reality at this linear, slower pace. And as we go, we're making choices and we're learning and we're accepting our true power and our true nature. And we're allowing God basically to create through us. So I hope that this video helps. It's a perfect example of how, with me and with my client, as soon as you are aware of the desire and you actually say yes to it and you accept it, all of the cooperative components are literally being put together behind the scenes without you even having to know about it or see it. So it's only when you become aware of the process of manifesting that you get caught up in worrying of whether it's working or not. It's always been working. You've always been manifesting. So empower yourself and realize and take responsibility for everything that you're experiencing in your reality as being your manifestation. It's all a reflection, basically just showing you what you believe. It's showing you your belief system, both conscious and subconscious. Okay, so I hope that this video was of some value. Trust in your end with your specific person. Trust in the life that you guys have together, regardless of what's happening in the 3D. Everything that is happening is working out in your favor, in the two of you guys, your favor together. Trust in being an amazing and incredible, happy couple together that you guys learned throughout the times of separation. You guys saw that no matter what happened, no matter the time that passed, you were always in each other's minds and hearts, that you literally could feel, you can feel you're imprinted on their soul and they're imprinted on your soul. The love is equal between the two of you guys. And for anything else, if you are inspired to want to grow in your career, if you want to make more money, you don't have to put limits on yourself. Okay. You have to just trust in what is in your soul literally already exists and just allow it and accept it that it's done. And the moment that you do that, everything is already, it's all working. All sorts of movement is happening and everything is just you're just going to literally find yourself one day in your manifestation. When you start to get bits and pieces of it, if it's not completely your full manifestation, don't stop doing the inner work and say, okay, I can stop doing the inner work now. That's a lot of times where people get tripped up and then they end up with kind of up and down experiences because they're still going into fear. When you're afraid of something and you're reacting to something, it's simply telling you that that's still active within you. So you need to go and do some more inner work around it. Okay. But you want to detach it from whatever it is that you're manifesting. So if it's related to your other half, your mirror soul, and a bunch of stuff came up between the two of you guys, I know that it sucks, but you have to try to do your best to stay in trust and stay super, super faithful in your end. Okay. I love you so much. I hope that this video helps. Comment down below, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Nothing can come, nothing can come, nothing can come between us.